there, feel free to get started discussing interoperability, making DeFi liquidity more powerful with Polkadot. There you are, Kenny. Welcome.
Hello.
Hey, Kenny.
Thank you.
To see you.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. So hello, everyone, and thanks for joining this panel called Interoperability, Making DeFi Liquidity More Powerful. Decentralized finance, also known as DeFi, has been a hot niche in the crypto space over the past year. People have built numerous projects, but not all of them run on the same blockchain, which brings up the issue of compatibility. DeFi liquidity is siloed, creating significant friction. To discuss the situation, we have Denko Mancheski, CEO of Reef.finance, Kenny Lee, Chief Operating Officer of Manta Network, and Daniel Stockhaus, co-founder and CEO of Polkastarter. Welcome, guys. Thanks so much for jumping on, and let's just jump right in here. In your own words, can you briefly describe the current state of liquidity in DeFi and what some issues are? Denko, let's start with you.
Sure. So yeah, as you guys know, Reef is all about liquidity aggregation, and we have a pretty unique approach when it comes to solving this problem. So what happens currently, as we can see, the rise of the, I think you're muted, Daniel. We can see the rise of the wrapped assets, and then you have basically multiple instances of the same asset, which is wrapped assets everywhere, and this creates silos in liquidity because people that are not that tech savvy. I have a few friends who whenever something new comes out, I give them like examples of how can they try and do something, but it's basically impossible for them because they don't understand what it means wrapped assets and what it means multiple instances from the same wrapped asset. And on top of that, you have multiple ecosystems. We all know that Ethereum is currently king of liquidity because everything is happening over there. But as we've seen, due to the gas fees and everything, there's so many people that are locked out; they cannot participate, and that's where we see the rise of Binance Smart Chain, which is obviously way less expensive. And then we have the bridge that more and more people are utilizing. Our community loves BSC. So what happens is our goal is to make liquidity as flexible as we possibly can. But we cannot just say that we will bring liquidity onto the Reef chain and just hope that it happens. So we believe that the best approach is to add certain incentive layers where people can shift liquidity back and forth, and this is what we're working on right now.
Gotcha. I think we lost one here.
He's having issues with his audio. I'm re-inviting him. I think he wasn't in Chrome, which is the only browser that Crowdcast really functions in.
Gotcha. Kenny, you want to take a stab at it?
Yeah, sure. So I'm simultaneously reading the comments section right now, and everyone seems to be commenting on my forced smile. I didn't realize it was forced, but maybe I'm a little nervous. But anyways, Denko, it's great to meet you in person. I know we've been talking a lot on Telegram, so it's good to put a face to the name. And I think he left again. But I think one of the questions that you asked then about what are some of the issues that we see in DeFi today, and at the risk of tooting our own horn, I think one of the biggest issues is privacy. And it's something that everyone is facing, but not many people really talk about it. And so if you think about looking out to blockchain, not right now in the state of DeFi now, but 3 to 5 years from now, right? Companies are already starting to dabble in adding Bitcoin to their balance sheets, right? Tesla is the poster child of that. And so it's an emerging trend, and we see a lot of Chinese companies starting to do this as well. And what we also know is that the yields in DeFi right now are just it's just so much more attractive than anything that you can find in traditional finance. And so it wouldn't be surprising to start seeing companies move towards shifting some of their assets into the DeFi space to capture those yields, right? And then transacting, it's supposed to be cheaper and it will be faster. And so I think what we're going to see is a rise in the transaction side as well. But all of this is not scalable without a privacy layer. Because if you think about it, like, we all have bank accounts, right? And so how do I view your money in your bank account right now? I can't. You have to log into your bank account. You have to type in your username and password. You have to prove that you are you in order to just view your assets. But that's not the same with blockchain, right? As soon as I know your wallet address, I see all of your assets. I see all of your trades. I know exactly what you're doing. How does this scale from an enterprise use case? How do you bring in companies who want to maintain trade secrets, which definitely affect their strategies, without that layer of privacy? And so, the state of liquidity and privacy definitely is growing, but in order to truly scale that, we do think that there needs to be that privacy layer.
Sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So how does Daniel, can you hear us yet or no?
I can now hear you. Yeah, I changed the browser, everything working. Okay,
perfect. So do you want to answer that question? So in your own words, can you briefly describe the current state of liquidity in DeFi and what some of the issues are?
I mean, I didn't hear the other answers, so I don't know what you guys said before, but I guess the whole trust in DeFi is based on the liquidity available. In our case, with Polkastarter, we see so many projects launching where they're still at the very beginning of their journey. And if the trust is not there with the team, with the development, then people will have to make very uneducated decisions if they will invest in these projects. So the whole way how to do the trust in the blockchain without having these intermediaries is kind of the biggest obstacle right now, and that's where we are trying to kind of bring a little bit stability in.
Gotcha. Seems like now we lost Denko.
Am I next?
We'll keep going here. So Kenny, let's move over to you. How does interoperability fit into the equation? Like, how is interoperability a problem in crypto and in DeFi right now?
Yeah, it's a huge problem. And I guess from my perspective, I think of it in two ways. One is just the growth of the ecosystem, and two is like what that means for, Manta network. One, the growth of the ecosystem right now, right? Like we see the trend is to build smart contract decentralized applications. And, there's definitely a lot of use cases there. But what that doesn't give you is the freedom of architectural design choices. And what you end up having is something like, Ethereum, which is, not a knock against Ethereum at all, but you have one blockchain that's trying to support an entire ecosystem of applications, right? And in 2017, or maybe it was 2018, we saw this with CryptoKitties, right? The first really hyped up blockchain decentralized application that suddenly everyone started using, and you wake up one day and you try to send some Ethereum, and for some reason it's like $60 in gas fees, right? And we're seeing that emerging today as well. And this is with the DeFi trend, and I guess NFTs also. But the problem here is that, right, like without having that architectural design freedom of creating your own consensus protocol, creating your own sort of decentralized layer and spreading and distributing your compute load through that, then you're essentially confining yourself to the compute power of the underlying platform, which currently, in some cases, it's not very scalable. And so having that interoperability is very important because it allows these projects to now not have so much dependency on the underlying architecture. They can create their own architecture and still be able to cooperate with others. And that's very important. And then specifically with our use case, right, we're building out a decentralized exchange as one of our first products. And so definitely the interoperability of the tokens are extremely important to us.
Gotcha. Daniel, you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
I mean, my answer would have been very similar. We are trying to build a fundraising platform which is interoperable, where people can raise in all kinds of coins, not just Ethereum, but in DOT, in BTC, and so on. So at the moment, there is not this trustless bridge. I think something we will come on to. So moving coins between different networks is very difficult right now. All the liquidity is on Ethereum right now. It's moving a little bit into Binance Smart Chain, but then you come to the issue of not being decentralized versus centralized. So to have a fully decentralized interoperable environment, I think we are still quite a long time away, but I think we just need to have this vision in our mind and walk towards it, and hopefully we can get there.
Yeah, for sure. Denko, is your audio and everything good?
Yes. Can you hear me well?
Perfect. Yes,
Perfect.
I can. So just to repeat the question, did you hear the question initially?
You can repeat. Yeah.
Just talking about interoperability. How is interoperability a problem in crypto and DeFi right now?
Yeah. So basically, to understand, our point of view regarding interoperability, I would like to just briefly start from how we see the innovation in this space. So as we see the innovation in cycles, pretty much. First the leader was Bitcoin. A completely new technology. Everyone started learning how it works. Everyone tried to understand as deep as possible. And then we saw the limitations, and then we saw the innovation stopped somewhere. People came with extremely innovative solutions such as the Lightning Network, but unfortunately, as we've seen, the adoption has not been that good. What happens next comes Ethereum. Ethereum comes with a completely new way of doing dApps, deploying smart contracts, proof of work, etc. So what happens right now, as we've seen, and we all know that the crypto landscape is moving extremely fast. We've all heard the words where people are like, 2 weeks in the crypto landscape or a year and a half in the real world. But what happens when it comes to the innovation? At some point, this stops. The space is still moving, but we cannot innovate as much because of those limitations. And when it comes to Ethereum, if you see the actors, you have like proof of work, you have these miners, which are technically, controlling the network, and then you have on the other side projects which are innovating. They brought DeFi, they invented DeFi, projects such as Maker and Aave, etc. But now they're being hurt by certain limitations. So they cannot expand. Their users are getting hurt. They can, a lot of users cannot participate in their protocols. So that's why we've came up with the Reef chain, which is not trying to be something that did not exist before, but trying to basically be the next generation platform where people are already used to something such as Ethereum, but we would like to fix certain things that Ethereum has. But on top of that, we cannot expect that projects will just come on our chain. We need to have some incentive layers. We have to have the interoperability layers, the bridges in place, etc., so that people can bring stuff. And basically, to simplify your answer, we see when we talk about composability, we will see platform composability. You have Bitcoin at one side, which is the main settlement layer, and now people wrap Bitcoin. So my friends, they think that Bitcoin is on Ethereum now, the newcomers. And now 2 years down the road, Ethereum will be just like Bitcoin right now. There will be multiple projects, and everything is somehow still connected in the background. Those layers, this infrastructure, those technical complexities, people eventually will stop listening about that. Just like we're now not talking about, the operating system. We are now talking on Google Chrome. There is 50 layers in between the bare metal and Google Chrome, and we just talk about the upper level layer. So that's what we mean. There will be multiple layers, and every layer will bring another wave of innovation, and all those layers will interoperate in between one way or the other.
Sure. Yeah, it's a lot of building and a lot of complication there, a lot of progression. So in the future, do you envision all DeFi platforms compatible with each other? For example, using ETH on a DEX on Binance Smart Chain somehow, or how could this or something like it be achieved across the whole DeFi niche? Daniel, you want to go first on that?
I'm probably not the right expert to answer this question, but I think, as you can see, at the moment, Binance Smart Chain and Ethereum, they could complement each other, but they are kind of targeting the same users and trying to compete with each other instead of working with each other. I think we will see more and more networks which are specializing in certain areas to become kind of the go-to place for these kind of apps to build on. And hopefully then we see a large ecosystem which works together, where apps for certain functionalities will be on certain networks and then work together with these different networks to create a large blockchain ecosystem. But I guess that's the whole idea of Polkadot, that each parachain has their own kind of functionality, and then you have this cross-chain technology where they can work seamlessly together and have this security layer around it.
Awesome. Kenny? I know you're kind of preoccupied with the chat over there.
Sorry, people are, I'm getting a little self-conscious about my smile. But yeah, I think I understand the nature of competition, right? Especially because we are in this transition state from like the centralized sort of mentality and thinking into more of a decentralized ecosystem. But I do like to really think like, 3, 5, 10 years ahead. And what does the ecosystem look like there, right? Like right now, if you think of it from a zero-sum game perspective, it's a game of getting as much liquidity as possible into your project, and so everyone can trade and have a great experience. But like, what's the advantage of having so much liquidity? It's like everyone has their own pockets of liquidity, but like you can't interoperate the liquidity in such an easy manner. Although there are projects coming out that are starting to create that interoperability layer for that. But once liquidity becomes ubiquitous, then the ability to jump from one exchange to another for some type of features that you're looking for is going to enhance user experience. And I think like at the end of the day, throughout decentralization, building on this next generation of like financial instruments, right? Like I think one of the focuses that is different between DeFi and traditional finance is that users shouldn't have to be so, I guess, brand focused, brand aware, right? Like users should have that freedom of choice. And that's exactly what we're building out for the ecosystem. And I think that's why the interoperability is so important. And with that underlying like ubiquitous layer of liquidity, it makes it even easier for the user. So yeah, I think the interoperability is not only important, it's a critical piece for the future of where we're headed in DeFi.
For sure. Denko?
Yeah, so basically to extend on what I previously mentioned, right now and that's extremely good, we're trying different things, like different projects are coming up with different ideas how to solve these problems. And this is a natural step, basically, of how everything in tech evolved. Like even if we start from like 20 years ago, like you have like 10 projects trying different things out. And then, as they progress, some of their ideas don't work, or some of their ideas get merged, or completely new ideas get, out there. So basically, no matter what we do, the nature of the innovation that's happening in tech generally will eventually get to a point where those problems will be fixed. And when those problems are fixed, then people stop talking about it because it's taken for granted. Like you can open any website on any browser, so nobody says, "No, you can't open that website in Chrome," or etc. So eventually, that's what's happening here. More layers will come, layers of abstraction, and those issues such as interoperability and liquidity siloing, one way or the other, will get resolved.
Awesome. So Kenny, this next one, let's start with you. Do you think trustless bridges will ever be practical? And do you want to just give a little brief, user-friendly explanation of trustless bridges for maybe some new people, and then go into the question?
Yeah, sure. So for what it's worth, right? Like my, I guess, understanding and explanation of trustless bridges, being a caveat that we are not a trustless bridge, is essentially a way for you to be able to communicate, collect, send, receive information from other chains, including for interoperability reasons. So what this essentially means is that, you know, I guess analogously, you have a village here, and this village has its own economy and it has its own currency called like Village One currency. And then you have another economy over here, which is another village that's like across the river, and you don't interact with each other in any way, and you have a different type of currency, Village Two currency. So how can Village One currency and Village Two currency work together to combine forces and create an even bigger economy, right? They have to communicate with each other, but they don't know how, because they have a different language, they have a different currency, right? They have different values. And so there has to be some way to figure out how they can work together to build something bigger. And that some way is the trustless bridge. And trustless implying that there doesn't have to be a third party. There doesn't have to be someone in the middle that you have to trust, right? There can be some algorithmic approach to proving the trustworthiness of both sides. If that makes any sense, and anyone feel free to chime in. But that's just a very colloquial analogy that I can give.
Yeah, that was great.
Cool.
So do you think trustless bridges will ever be like practical and like, I don't know, normalized, I guess? Is that the right word?
I guess. I mean, and honestly, this is coming from a very biased perspective, because again, we're building out a decentralized exchange. So we like, our project depends on the prosperity of a trustless bridge, right? Because like, you know, Denko had mentioned it, the liquidity, the variety, the DeFi space is dominated by Ethereum right now. And, you know, we don't see that going away. I don't think anyone here sees that going away. But how do we, as layer one blockchains, also participate in that? How do we bring that, our services, our features, Manta's privacy, to Ethereum tokens? We do need that trustless bridge layer. And it starts making a lot more sense when you think about interoperability, when you think about the future of the blockchain ecosystem, and, you know, eliminating all this competition and really trying to figure out the best for the community. And so, you know, trustless bridges are a critical piece to that. So, you know, do I see a future with trustless bridges? Practically, yes, because I see a future with, you know, DeFi at a very interoperable level. And if DeFi does get to that space, then trustless bridges will be there. That's my opinion.
Gotcha. Denko?
Yeah, so my opinion on this is, you know, when we discuss interoperability, I think, you know, the transfer of state from one chain to the other is basically the question in hand here. And the issue is the state. You have different like types of state. Like you have, you know, some coins that have like you know, some supply that's elastic, etc. So you have multiple issues, and it's hard to solve this problem in a generic way. So what I believe will happen is, as new platforms like get more and more adoption, the bridges between them will be unique. So you cannot just create a trustless bridge and you expect that, you know, one size fits all, and then we will just deploy it, and then every platform will be interoperable. Basically, you know, depending, and as we've seen, general purpose blockchains are, you know, quite hard to achieve all the things that, you know, we need for. Obviously, you know, you have chains which require a lot of, you know, transactions per second. You have chains that require, you know, cron jobs, etc. So what happens here is, again, just like in the traditional tech world and the history, you have protocols for exchanging data. You have protocols that are specific for the use case. So how I see trustless bridges in the future, I see them being very tailored, like for inter-platform like communication, and something such as XCMP is very promising. But this will be probably just the networking layer. There will be a lot of people that are building like layers on top of XCMP, which is so far one of the most you know, promising way to interoperate. So that's my opinion.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of different components to consider. Daniel, do you have anything to add?
Not much to add. I mean, the whole blockchain ecosystem at the moment is not fully decentralized. You can always find little parts which are under control of certain actors. So I think you have these trustless bridges as a way to look at in the future where you want to go. Same as with the blockchain ecosystem, same as everything. We are still at the very, very early stages where we are trying to figure out many things. But yeah, like I said, this vision is in place. I think for many people, it's very hard to understand this vision, that there's no actor who has any control over any part of these interactions between various chains, various users, that it's all permissionless, trustless, and it's a big vision, but that's what we are here for, and yeah, we just have to believe in it that it's possible.
So one of the big topics in crypto in general is decentralization. Are all of the blockchains running DeFi solutions equally decentralized? Denko?
Right now, definitely not. You have, and at the end of the day, you know, what I believe personally is that DeFi on its own has a huge, you know, potential for our planet. And what happens is, in order to push, you know, DeFi to mass adoption, it's completely fine if we, you know, sacrifice certain things, as in, you know, Binance Smart Chain, not fully decentralized. So what? It doesn't matter. As long as the innovation can go, eventually, as better solutions come up, those solutions will be adopted. So the fact that currently not everything is fully decentralized, including the bridges, it's completely fine because it doesn't matter. Like for the users, what matters is that we have to improve the usability. We have to improve the UI, the UX, the way to get into DeFi. We have to improve the resources for people to learn what this is about, and eventually those problems will not even matter. That's my opinion. I think, you know, if you take a look at the crypto landscape from 5 years ago, you can see that certain priorities changed. People are like, the first is fully decentralized, no one can control it, etc. Now people are like, yes, it's fine if someone competent controls it, as long as, you know, they have our back and there is certain governance in place. So it's not fully centralized. It's fine. So, you know, sacrificing some portion of decentralization for the sake of mass adoption, it's completely fine in my opinion.
Awesome. Daniel?
I mean, yeah, the answer is, I guess, very clear that the decentralization is very different on different networks right now. I mean, we've struggled to make the decision to deploy on Binance Smart Chain, but we've decided just a few weeks ago that we have to follow where the liquidity is and deploy on Binance Smart Chain. But I think it just goes to say what I said previously. There is a journey. The innovation will take place slowly, but as long as you have a vision in place, we just, I don't know. I just repeat myself, so it's not much to say to this answer.
No worries. Kenny? Yeah, I think Denko made really good points. And so, you know, I think just to add a little bit more on exactly what decentralization is, because, you know, we all recognize the importance of it. I think, you know, when people say decentralization, they think of it in a binary manner, right? Like it's either 0 or 1. It's either true or false. You're either centralized or you're not, or you're decentralized. But I think, you know, to challenge the community, right? Like I think you should be thinking about decentralization as a spectrum, right? And it's not just clearly black and white. There are aspects to every project, especially as we're building out. There are components that are centralized. There are components that are decentralized. And the definition of both really depends on the person's perspective. So for example, right, like if you say Bitcoin is decentralized, what does that mean? It means that there are miners all over the world who are mining Bitcoin on their proof of work consensus. But does it truly mean that they're, decentralized? Because probably, I mean, I don't know the exact metrics, but I'm sure that 95% of the mining power is in the palms of 5% of the miners, right? So like, how truly decentralized is it, right? At the end of the day, it's very subjective. And as you're seeing emerging projects like us and others as well, right? Like we're a small and growing team. We're hiring, by the way, just a plug. The thing is that, our development ecosystem is small. So like how decentralized are we? Yeah, geographically we're decentralized, but like, we're only a certain amount of people. So how truly decentralized is that? So I would say that, like, definitely think about decentralization as a spectrum, and definitely as a goal that we want to achieve. And so being able to, traverse that spectrum helps us keep in mind that, it's not black and white, and we aren't just either or, but we can be both, moving towards a common goal of decentralization.
Excellent. I think we're pretty much out of time here. Thank you so much, panelists, for your time and conversation. Thanks so much, everyone, for watching the panel today.